Welcome to the Cherry Picker, the horror movie podcast where we like to kill people, but not really. I'm your host, Zack Cherry, and with me as always is...
Drew, is that you?
Eddie of Edward is Truth. Hi.
And today we are talking about the OG Prom Night, released September 12th, 1980. And
A Simcom production.
I don't know what that means.
It's a Simcom production. It's what it means.
Okay. Is that something, though?
It's the name of the production company.
Yeah,
I
what
don't know.
else
It came up and I was like, Simcom, never heard of them.
Okay,
Maybe
so they haven't done
nothing. I
anything
don't know.
else that we know of.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No,
Well, anyway.
Still noteworthy.
This was actually a podcast we were going to do a while ago, and then we just decided not to.
I think we were both angry at Jamie Lee, maybe.
Probably.
Were we both angry?
I don't know. I don't even
Was
care.
it around the time of the incident with Danielle Harris and with Scout Taylor Compton?
Are we really
that would
angry
make
about that, though? Does it really matter?
I was. I think it did at the time. I mean, I was angry. I think you were merely interested.
I mean, the thing, yeah. Now that there's more context to it, I wasn't going to go into, like, great detail, but since the cat's out of the bag, it was, we were going to do an episode for Jamie Lee Curtis's birthday, because it was, like, the Tuesday release fell on her birthday. We're like, let's do an old Jamie Lee Curtis movie. And we're thinking of, like, okay, what haven't we done? And, like, what could we do that's not Halloween? And we're like, oh, let's just do Prom Night. And we're like, okay, because we haven't seen it in a while. And then it was, like, getting closer to the date, because it was, like, her birthday's in November. And I think that was it. Like, just with the release of Halloween Ends, when she was getting so extra with everything, like, promoting the movie and spoiling the movie and telling everyone how... it's such a good movie, but they're also going to hate it at the same time and all that. And then the whole thing that happened at the premiere, and it's just like, oh, okay,
yeah,
I don't.
But she's got an Oscar now, so she doesn't care. She's fine.
Does. She doesn't need. Yeah. She doesn't care about our criticism. But I mean, like, for all intents and purposes, like, Jamie Lee Curtis is like, she can be very grating, but I have so much respect for her as a human being. But she scares the shit out of me. Like, you know the meme. I'm sure we've talked about the meme before of just, like, her having lunch with a friend and just sipping the water and just, you know, Andre, if you can find it, just put it up on the screen for anyone who's watching. And she's, like, she is not the person that you want to be on the bad side of. We'll just say that, because she's a scary bitch. And I mean that with as much... love and respect as possible. But yeah, the whole, you know, back in October when the premiere happened and all that shit was going down the pipeline, it's like, oh god, what now? So yeah, I was interested, and now I'm just like, let's just do this movie, because I hadn't seen it in a while. And I'm
it's prom season.
It is, yeah, I guess so. I mean, grad is what we call it here in Canada, but
really,
yeah, they call it grad.
Oh.
And can I just you know, for inquiring minds, I didn't have one. Like,
really?
I went to, yeah, really. No,
You'll find out why I'm saying that in a minute, but go ahead.
Well, no. I went to, like, a very small private school in my high school years, my graduating years, and we had a thing. It was kind of like a graduation ceremony / dinner, because there wasn't a lot of students. Like, in my class, there was like, there's maybe like 12 of us. So it's just like a thing. It was just like a gathering with us and, like, parents and stuff. There might have been, like, some other people invited or significant others, but it wasn't like a dance or anything like that. It was just like a very formal dress dinner sort of thing. But there was never a dance. There was never a thing. Like there's with the amount of people in that graduating class, like it wouldn't have happened. Like who do you invite and stuff? And like nobody liked each other. It was high school, and there's only like 12 people. It's just like I hate all of you. So yeah, I never.
You were like a jury. You were like the 12 Angry Men. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So that was my non-experience of grad / prom.
Okay,
do you have
I've
a
had
better
3.
story?
I've attended 3 proms. I went to my own when I was a senior with a friend in high school who has since come out also. And she, we had some fun, but also like, I don't know, I was a very bad escort because I didn't date and I didn't go to dances before any of this. So I didn't know that like she was my responsibility. I thought we were all going with a bunch of friends. So we ended up all just kind of hanging out, and I lost track of her throughout the course of the evening. And at one point she came over and looked me in the eye and kind of joking, but also kind of not, and just said like, "Have you forgotten about me?" And I was like, "No. Where have you been?" Spent like another, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes with her, and then I went back to like just hanging out with my friends. And then afterwards, she went her way, I went mine, and I just hung out with another friend of mine, Jessie, at the Hotel Shangri-La, and she was very, very, I can't remember if she was drunk or stoned, and she had a guy who was trying to get her alone, and she didn't want to be alone with him. So she asked me if I would stay with her, and I said, sure, let's go see if we can find the roof. And we found it. And we got up on the roof of the Hotel Shangri-La in Santa Monica. The roof. Yeah. And I usually say roof. But we got up there, and we wanted to watch the sunrise, but instead we just watched the sky light up because it was so smoggy. And then twice subsequently, I went to other people's proms, because I had younger friends than me, you know, like by a year or 2 years, because I was in a children's theater group, and there were these girls who wanted to go with someone they would have fun with, but who they wouldn't feel any kind of like, you know, romantic pressure from. And by then I was out. So yeah, I should have charged. I should have, like, you know, put myself out there, you know, prom escort.
Yeah, well, you're
safe,
like a
but
chauffeur,
fun.
so you may as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you like get a corsage and, you know, give it to them?
Yeah, for the first date, yes. And I think she got me a boutonniere too. And for the other ones I did too. Like I was better subsequently. Like the second and third time I was a much better, more attentive prom date, because also I'm not going to hang out with anybody at someone else's prom. I don't know anybody, and they're all teenagers, and I was, you know, by that time like 19 or 20, and I don't want to hang out with strange teenagers. That's just weird. So I just entertained my table to the best of my ability, you know. So yeah, but no pig's blood, no trauma really, just kind of soft memories.
I'm now that you mentioned the keyword, the buzzword, if you will. I'm interested to know what Jamie Lee thinks about this movie in recent years. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing with Jamie Lee Curtis. Because after Halloween, she wasn't getting any roles, which was like crazy. Because like the movie blew up, it was this huge thing, and her career was like dead for a year and a half or whatever. Like throughout 1979, I don't think she did anything. She might have been like on a TV episode of Charlie's Angels or something.
Yeah, she did that. She played a golf pro.
Yeah.
I know that episode well.
But I used to watch like the Charlie's Angels reruns would come on the cable TV. So I don't know if I ever watched that one, but I am familiar.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she wasn't working. And it was actually like John Carpenter threw her a bone and, you know, cast her in The Fog. And I think after that, I'm not sure what came out next, if it was Terror Train or Prom Night.
I can look it up.
It doesn't matter. But she was probably still desperate for roles, because I guess they had already cast the role of Kim... I forget the last name, who is the character that Jamie Lee Curtis plays in this, and they cast her with some television actress, and then Jamie's management, called the production. They're like, how would you like to hire Jamie Lee Curtis? And they're like, well, we already hired someone. Like, we have them in the role. And they're like, this is Jamie Lee Curtis, like the star of Halloween, like the slasher movie that you're trying to, copy the success of. So they're just like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. We should hire Jamie Lee to be in this movie because we can then market it as just like Jamie Lee Curtis in another slasher movie. So then that kind of like started this, like, I don't think that she really wanted to be in the movie. Like, she wasn't like seeking out these roles that were just like, great. She just wanted to work, and it was like an easy job for her. And that's why she has like that slew of horror movies in the early 80s, which she kind of looks back on it with a lot of disdain now, other than Halloween.
I've heard her speak about The Fog for sure.
Well, the only good thing that she says about The Fog is that, she got to work with John Carpenter again, which she liked, and she got to work with her mother. So that was really special for her. But other than that, I think she said, like, and it wasn't that good. I like The Fog. I like The Fog better than this.
Let's talk about that. But before we do, Prom Night, Terror Train, and The Fog were all released in 1980. Terror Train was released October 3rd. When did you say Prom Night was released?
This was a September release.
Oh, okay. So a month later.
Yeah. And then because she had 6. I mean, the last one isn't really a horror movie, but there's Halloween, The Fog, Prom Night, Terror Train, Halloween 2, and then, what's it called? Road something.
Oh, you're going to make me
something Road. No, it's... I have it. I own it. It was like a Scream Factory release. It's not very good, and she's not in it a whole lot. But yeah, that was kind of like her little mini horror.
Road Games?
Road Games, that's what it was. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a strange one. And then, she didn't do anything again in the genre until H2O, which was 16 years later.
But what do you think about this movie?
So I've never really liked Prom Night a whole lot. I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I have a DVD box that it has like all 4 of the original movies in it, and this is an interesting series. Like, it's a very, like, it's almost like Texas Chainsaw Massacre levels of inconsistent.
Oh, yes.
Like, even more so, because there's no cohesion to anything. Like, the first movie, this one, is like a straight up slasher, and then the second one is supernatural, and it all takes place, like, every movie, it's sort of like an anthology series where just like it's all set around the high school. So in the second movie, you find it's like Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, and she's this ghost that haunts the school, and I forget the third one, but it was another supernatural thing. And then the fourth one is like back to like more slasher, but it has like this religious angle to it. And then we know the Britney Snow one that came out in 2008, which was marketed as a remake, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, it shares absolutely nothing in common with this movie, other than the fact that it's prom. Like, it's a completely different kind of killer and story and characters. So it's the remake era is funny because a lot of them aren't really remakes, but this is the best one. And watching it again today, this is probably the most I've ever enjoyed it. And and I think what really sold it for me is kind of the giallo nature of it, because it really has more so at the beginning. I feel like as it goes through, other than the like set pieces, it kind of slows down and gets a little melodramatic, almost like My Bloody Valentine levels of like schmaltz and ridiculousness, which is funny because both of these are Canadian productions. This was actually filmed in Toronto, And
Right.
I could have sworn for a second, because there's like the bluffs that when when Jamie Lee Curtis and her boyfriend character are on, and they have a moment, I'm like, this looks so familiar. I saw it in My Bloody Valentine. Like, it was the scene where they're on the bluffs and they're just like, why won't you let me go? And like, like all that shit.
Right.
I don't think it was like the same tone of that. And obviously this came first, but the imagery really struck me, and I was just like, oh. But then finding out this was Toronto. Or at least I think they filmed that there. That doesn't look like anywhere in Toronto. But I digress. I really enjoyed it. I think like the beginning, especially like the opening scene, like the flashback, if you will, or like prologue of 6 years ago, and just sort of like the whole setup with like the killer calling everyone, and it really had a lot of giallo aspects to it. And then there's a lot of nonsense in it, and like obviously it's really built on these red herrings, or really only two maybe, which is the escaped mental patient, which is again very My Bloody Valentine, very Black Christmas, like all of these Canadian horror movies that are supposed to be like in the US. And all I could think by the end of it is just like, what happened to Leslie Nielsen? Where did he just disappeared? Yeah. And I was really missing him. Like, I just thought there could be so much more. There is, and I'll just say this because I'm taking up a lot of airtime right now. There's deleted scenes, or I guess there's like a television version of the film where they had the extra scenes and they used those whenever it plays on TV. And most of those scenes are with him. And his wife too, like the mother of like that family, and they kind of they set both of them up as red herrings. Like there's this scene where Jamie Lee comes home, and Leslie Nielsen is just there like chopping wood, and he's like in a bad mood, and he's just like focusing on the axe. But then like earlier before that, he takes his wife to therapy, and she's just sitting in the room alone, and he's talking with the doctor about her, and it kind of does this like thing into the room and just like pushes in on her face, and she just has this very like suspicious, like, is something going on with her? Like, could she be the killer? Like, the one who's been making these phone calls and all that. So they really like set up a lot. There was all these like other characters introduced as well. Like it gave the movie a much more populated vibe. Like it made it feel like there was more going on, whereas I feel like the theatrical version, or the one that we would see otherwise, it's very condensed to just like specific characters. And I think what I liked about like the extended or like the television cut is that you had so much more going on. It was like there was more red herrings. There was, it made it more interesting and more dynamic, rather than there's just this like very linear, like the cop just standing around the entire night, like getting updates about, where could this escaped mental patient be and all that.
Isn't that interesting how like adding in more footage to buff up the runtime for television, for the television cut, back when that was still kind of a thing, can introduce things that work better. Yeah.
I was just gonna say not for Halloween 2, but
no, but I was
on.
just gonna. I mean, thank you. I was going to say Halloween 2 because even though it doesn't work necessarily for Halloween 2, because Halloween 2 also just got, and when we do that pod, we'll dive into it. But like. That movie got rearranged. All of a sudden, things aren't happening in the place that they happened before, and scenes that were like 10 minutes in are now 20 minutes in, and scenes that were 30 minutes in are now 15. It's like, where are we? I'm disoriented, and I have no idea what's going on. That said, there are a few details here and there, like regarding Dr. Mixter and whatnot, that get a little more emphasis and make things a little bit more clear as to why things transpire the way they do. So it's, yeah. I'd be interested in seeing the TV cut of this at some point, not soon, because I've only seen this movie. I realized when I started watching it, I was like, well, let's see what I remember, and right off the bat, I completely forgot Leslie Nielsen was even in it. I saw his name, I was just kind of like, Leslie Nielsen, what? And I guess it's because he not really. But like he has some. I think he does well with like the scenes that he's in. But yeah, he really doesn't play a part other than everybody else does, kind of like the red herring thing, and also just kind of like there was some interesting stuff going on. I mean, I guess his presence kind of boosted Alex's presence in the movie, like the way Alex like gets in trouble for defending his sister and everything like that. Don't get me started. But just watching the way Leslie Nielsen's character handles all of that as principal of the school, and I have a mother who was a teacher and a counselor, and I was never taught by her in actual school, but we had religious education out here, CCD for Catholics and stuff like that, and I had to be taught by her in that. And then there was also like some summer course where she was a teacher. She was teaching science. We got to dissect sharks, and I sliced my finger open with a scalpel.
Oh,
and
no.
we had it was like a 6-week program, and we were like 5 weeks in, and my mom and I were kind of like really happy we'd gotten this far without anybody knowing. I was a student in the class, and nobody knew that I was her son. They just called her by her first initial of her last name. And I remember, but it all went to shit when I cut myself with the scalpel, because I just jumped up and just ran toward my mom and was like, "Mom! Look at this!" There's blood gushing out of my
Funny
finger.
enough that, like, have you ever had a situation, like, in elementary school where you've, like, called your teacher mom, though? Like, that is not your mom?
No, I've never done that.
I have definitely done it, like, at least once. But I've also been, like, privy to other kids doing it. And the thing is, like, the rule of grade school is, like, when that happens, the person who says it, like, gets teased relentlessly. Like, all in good jest, but it's just like, because I remember when I said it, I was just like, "Oh, your mom," like, you called her mom or whatever, and
Oh
like,
my god,
whatever.
It's so Ralph Wiggum of you. Like, will you open? What does he say? Will you open my milk for me, mommy? I'm not mommy, Ralph. I'm Miss Hoover.
Because that's how Miss Hoover sounds on The Simpsons.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Deep voice and always just a little bit put upon.
Yeah.
But anyway, but to get back to the movie, I thought that if Leslie Nielsen has a function that works successfully in this movie, aside from him just doing some good work, like he's in the moment, he's not throwing it away or anything like that. He's not just like, just give me my paycheck. Like he's making contact, and I believe the relationships that we're told are there. Yeah. But he, I think his presence more than anything is there to really kind of distract from how, I guess, from Alex, because he's so much more interesting to watch than Alex is. Because, I like Alex, but he's kind of a lump through most of this movie. He just kind of stands there, and and everything that he does that catches my eye, it doesn't kind of like endear me to him and make me want to watch him more. Like, even things that might have intentionally been put in to make him endearing, like his banter with Jamie Lee or Kim when he's getting her ready, and is he putting a necklace on her, and they have like a little banter between each other, and then there was something about it that put me off, because I was just kind of like, this is one of those things where writers don't always know how to write siblings. Sometimes it just kind of feels like two people flirting with each other, two strangers.
It's very Jason Priestley, Shannon Doherty.
Oh my god! I'd have to go back. I never got that from them, actually. But
oh really?
Ooh,
I mean,
I have to go back.
Well, no,
I have to go back and watch this show.
I never really watched 90210, but I remember there was a Lifetime movie or something, just like a thing that they did, like the behind the scenes of the show, like during the first couple of seasons, and one of the things is it was all based on true stories and stuff of just like the drama behind the production. And one of the things was just that when they were acting together, they would just get like a little too close for comfort, and like the censors and like this studio would be like, they're supposed to be siblings, like, is this normal? But they're just like, it's kind of, it works though. So they would write more scenes of them just being a lot more I don't want to say like intimate, but just like in scenarios like that, like she would get into his bed and, they would like...
Oh, I don't
have,
remember that.
Yeah, they would just like chat and stuff like that. And this is like 10 years later from Prom Night. So, I mean, maybe they still don't know how to write siblings. But there was one thing that I noticed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to do a premise. But there's one thing
I have one if you want me to. Sure,
what?
Yeah. I have one.
Well, yeah, tradition. But one thing I noticed that it gave me like, oh, Halloween, when it was during the prologue when Kim, although it's not played by Jamie Lee Curtis at this point, it's like the younger version of herself. She's like, oh, I forgot my geography book. And I was just thinking like, where's Linda? She'd be like, well, who needs your books? I always forget my books. My math book. My chemistry book.
It's not like you really need your books for. I mean, who really need books anyway? I mean, I'm not improving at all. But
I can only imagine that just like during that take in Halloween, they're just like, okay, PJ, the car's going to come around the corner. We don't know how long this is going to take, so just keep talking about your books until I say cut. Just like,
well, she was probably doing it in the booth, like doing like ADR, just like because anytime you record outside, you need to re-record the sound. So she's in the booth. They're just like, just give us a lot, just go on about your books. And she's like, I don't know what you need your books for. I mean, I forget all my book, my math book.
But there's even a similar thing here because she's like, I gotta go get my geography book, and they're just like, I think they even say like, why do you need that, or just some shit like that.
Oh, maybe it was a nod.
Yeah,
I mean, there's plenty of them in this, but okay, you want a premise? Although now that we're 60 minutes in, it's more like a mid-miss. But okay, all right. It's nothing grand either.
Nobody ever expects anything from you.
Oh, you're so kind.
I know, right?
Look at you. Lowering expectations everywhere. All right. What voice should I do it in?
I don't know.
All right.
I think you had some like a good time with the vocal fry last time.
Yeah, but there's no vocal fry in this movie, is there?
Well, there's maybe a little like Canadian, because I know I'm definitely.
And we all know how great my Canadian is. For all I can do is think about the My Bloody Valentine guy. Just like, for be children, be fish. I'll just do it with vocal fry. That was fun.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird for prom night. I'll try it. How about vocal fry and a Canadian accent? I don't know.
If you want to challenge yourself, go for it. I can't wait to hear it.
For children, where. This is crazy.
Just do it normal if it's gonna be too hard.
I'm gonna try it. Okay. For children, we're responsible for the.
I can't even hear you. You're too low.
All right. I'll just do it with vocal fry. For children, we're responsible for the accidental death of a classmate 6 years ago. Now they're teenagers stalked by a masked killer on their own prom night. That's it.
That's okay. Great.
Certainly worth waiting for, right?
5 minutes later, yeah.
But okay. I mean, one thing that endeared me from the get-go was the fact that it started on a reflection. Like, the first shot is like I think it's a reflection of like the sky and everything and the woods, and I'm just kind of like, oh, I wonder why they chose to do that, and wondered if it might pay off, because I remembered the twist, but but I've only seen it once, so I'm like, is there something I'm missing? Is there something about like duality or like mirror image? Like, was she supposed to be a twin with her brother or what? Because already had it spoiled for me.
Yes.
But
They are
were they supposed to be twins?
They are twins. Well, I mean, that was that popped into my head when I saw them because they were both wearing the matching stripes.
Oh, I just thought they were wearing matching stripes.
But no, but in that scene, the deleted one, or the TV scene when they're at the therapist, because Leslie Nielsen says to the therapist, it's just like, yeah, like Alex was, her twin brother, and then like Kim is the older one, like my little princess, she's has her prom tonight, and like yada yada yada. But yeah, they're twins.
Okay, get Mr. Director's cut here.
It's on the Blu-ray.
True, but...
It's on. It's this is not an exclusive.
Oh, okay. See, I streamed this off Peacock. I don't own this movie. But also, okay, I was confused at first when they're doing the Killers Are Coming thing, the game, because I was like, I've never played that. Then I realized it's basically just hide and seek, only with a lot more animosity and just rage like funneled in your direction. Like hide and go seek, you basically just get found or you get tagged sometimes before you reach Ollie Ollie Oxen Free and all that stuff. But this, it's like, let's encircle someone who wasn't playing with us to begin with and just chant about like, a killer is coming, killers are coming, killers are coming. And what was that? What was it? Like, I was so, again, very giallo, because it was confusing as fuck. It was not rooted in any kind of reality that I understand, although cruelty from children that kind of goes unchecked, that felt very authentic to me. But it was also, I don't know, in this big block letters, like happening in a way that's more nightmarish than like memorable. Yeah. Like, it doesn't make me reminisce or, fondly or otherwise about like my younger days when I was closer to the age of these children. I don't remember ever just chanting something over and over again until we boiled a child to tears. I don't know. What about you?
I mean, there's definitely like a camp quality to it, but that whole bit, I was more so just impressed by the filmmaking, because it's actually like really well done throughout this movie. And that's something that I forgot. And I was actually reading some stuff, or it might have been on the featurette that I was watching, because this came out after Friday the 13th, and they were just talking about how Friday the 13th was a more well-received movie. Like, it did much better at the box office. It had more commercial success, more fans, whereas Prom Night got a lot more critical praise, whereas Friday the 13th was panned by the critics. Sure. And I definitely feel that comparatively, like, Friday the 13th is not a well put together movie. I mean, there's a lot of things about it that stand out, and I think that it's fun. I think, particularly the Harry Manfredini score in that, and then you obviously have Betsy Palmer. Like, that's what we were missing here. Like, if Leslie Nielsen had shown up, like, not necessarily that he had to be the killer, but he's like the big name other than Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. But, maybe if there was like a Betsy Palmer level performance from him, this might have been a little bit more memorable in that regard. But just the filmmaking, because we know that Sean Cunningham, who's typically a producer, he directed the original Friday the 13th, and I forget the director of this one, but it right off the bat, like, that building, that abandoned school, I guess, just the way that it was all photographed, and the cinematography throughout that, like, it had that very old school giallo feel to it, like this, because this was 1980s, so I mean, you're still within the 70s, and even this part of the movie is supposed to be taking place in the 70s, so it all tracks anyway. But yeah, there's something about it that it did have like a kind of like dreamlike quality to it, but more so like what I got out of it was that it's like, this is the OG I Know What You Did Last Summer.
That's what I thought too.
And
at least from the get-go, from the opening
from the
sequence,
beginning.
yeah.
And watching this, not that I had a bad time watching Prom Night, but watching this like really gave me a newfound appreciation for I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, not a huge one, because I still think that movie's hella overrated. But I love that, like, at least in that movie, how they kind of set up this moral dilemma. Whereas here, it's like the kids, they hit the same beat and just like, we can't tell anyone about this. Like, we're never going to talk about this again. But it never comes up in the rest of the movie. Like, they don't even know why this person is coming after them. Like, there's never a moment where any of these characters get together and discuss what's happening or the phone calls that they've been getting or any of that. None of them ever speak to the incident. And in a way that like that pissed me off for Nick, who's kind of like the one survivor who, I mean, maybe he just survived because he didn't pick up the phone at the beginning. I saw that somewhere, which goes back to the rules, you know, like never pick up the phone. But there's never a moment in the movie where he's dating the sister of the girl that he killed, or, you know, had a hand in playing, and he never talks about it. He's never held accountable. There's nothing comes up about it. So it's like it's kind of like a wasted opportunity, because I feel like a lot of this movie meanders through just like stupid like prom night antics, and, you know, not even really well at that. That it could have used like a dosage of just some of that character drama that we get in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, if they would have leaned in even more so than they did. Also, just
well, they didn't at all. That's the thing.
Well, no, we'll get to that. Hold on a second, though. The director was Paul Lynch. The most notable thing that I can find that people still probably talk about and would associate him with is he also directed. I'm just double checking, making sure. Yes, he was also one of the directors out of 9 on RoboCop. So
I did not know that movie had 9 directors to it.
There were 9 people credited on IMDb. You tell me. But
I can tell you.
But as far as like, I mean, like, I feel like they plant seeds for it, but again, it never really pays off. Like, because again, this movie borrows from a lot of other of its predecessors and just kind of throws a bunch of dynamics and elements into a blender and then just kind of serves itself up, which is kind of a different critique than what you're offering. I feel like I'm giving a harsher critique of the filmmaking for me, just because of what it evoked in me. Like everything that seemed kind of like the most effective, whether it was because it was memorable, you know, and that alone, or whether because I thought it was actually interesting and working, like for the film, for the functionality of the film at large. It all seemed to remind me of something else. And one of the things where they seemed to be planting the seeds for this melodrama was the situation between Kim and Nick and Wendy, with the fact that, like, Wendy was still trying to take up space in Nick's life, but he was over her. But he really still kind of seemed, also talking about a physical comfort, I mean, there was something, I wish he would have pushed her away from him more or something, or just walked faster to get away from her, you know, things like that. Like, he doesn't have to physically handle her, but I don't know. And then the confrontation when, like, I thought it was a great moment in the movie when Kim is walking into the gym before the prom, like it's prom day, not prom night. And she's just kind of like modeling some moves, trying some moves on, you know, to see, like,
she does,
you know,
a like full on spin.
Yeah, what's the prom queen? You know, how am I going to get my bearings here? Where, you know, where's the best place to do this and that? Like a rehearsal. Like, I love it. And then all of a sudden the light gets turned on and there's Wendy talking like they're both on Dynasty or Dallas or one of those 80s, you know, Knots Landing, you know, like
listen, sister, it's not about who you go with, it's about who takes you home.
Yeah, right. And like, yeah, I'll be sure to remember that, or whatever she says. Like, I mean, it was a great moment. It was fun, but it didn't.
Are you not a Wendy
fan? They kept building up. That's a huge question, but hold on. The thing is, I liked it. I wish we could have done more with it. But they kept kind of trying to set it up the way they set up Chris Hargensen and Billy Nolan and Carrie, and that paid off. Something actually happened there.
Yeah.
I'm unclear what the plan was in the first place with that guy Lou, who's gross, and with Wendy. I mean, obviously they wanted to go to make Nick jealous, I guess, and then, and there was some plan that Wendy wanted to change her mind about, and she didn't want to, or she. I was so unclear. I had no idea what the end game was.
It was very murky, and because what I was thinking is like, okay, so is Lou going to go out in place of Nick, and then it was going to be like a surprise that he would be standing there next to Jamie Lee, but then when because I think she was dead at that point, Wendy, just whatever, let's just do it without her or whatever. So does that mean that it was just both of them were going to go up and set and just be like, oh look, here we are? And I mean, there were questions like, why is he even there? Didn't he get suspended? Doesn't that apply to after school events as well?
I don't think he cares. I don't think Luke gives a shit whether he's suspended or not. But the fact that the whole plan was him to put the crown on his head, the new plan even was, I'm going to go out there with the crown on my head and I'm going to stand by Kim. What? Why? What will that achieve? I don't know. Is he going to be thumbing his nose at the principal who isn't there all of a sudden anymore?
It was very anticlimactic.
You said I was suspended, but look at me now. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand.
Yeah, it was very anticlimactic, and it's. Yeah. I understand. It's kind of unfair to compare it to Carrie because Carrie is leagues above this, and a totally different story and subgenre and all that, but I mean, just in terms of the prom, I have questions about what kind of prom already decides who the prom king and prom queen are.
I know. No, I don't know of any prom ever in the history of prom or grad. That where the students went in already knowing who the winners were, and then thusly they just kind of step out and we all worship. I mean, I don't understand. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It's all about.
Could you imagine Jawbreaker if we'd already known that Courtney was going to be?
There would have been a massacre. There never would have been a prom. There would have just been a massacre. We would have watched Courtney just burning down the school, but Buffy style. But no. But also, I as far as the comparison with Carrie, I would agree with you. It's not fair to compare the movie to Carrie just as far as it's a movie about prom. Let's not compare every movie about prom with Carrie. But at the same time, the movie itself positions itself to be kind of compared with that. I even started thinking it's almost like we've got the good couple and the bad couple, where we have Sue Snell and Tommy Ross and Chris Hargensen and Billy Nolan. Over here we have, I don't know anybody's last names in this movie, but we have presumably the good couple, which is your Nick and your Kim, and then we've got the bad couple, which is your Wendy and your fucking Lou. But
fucking Lou.
I will. Yeah, but you asked me if I was a fan. Oh, fuck them. Yeah. Okay, I would never have gotten in that car. This is the thing. You asked me if I was a Wendy fan. As far as a moviegoer, yeah, I think she's fun to watch. Again, I wish they could have gone even harder with it. If she could have, she was kind of the queen bee in the flashback already. And I got that, so I'm glad that she was kind of the most severe of them when they're 6 years later, all high schooled up and everything. But
just how abusive she is to her grandmother. I want to say there's no way that woman is her mother.
I mean, but
her nanny. I don't know.
Yeah, whoever she is, but she. I mean, at first, when they were in their prom dresses, I was just kind of I think I'm Team Wendy as far as just the look, because the red sparkle, number that she's got going on had it all over that weird reveal with eventually when Jamie Lee took that kind of wrap off, off the top, and we could see like, oh no, it's a lovely pink, number she can move in and everything like that. But before that, she had like this thing draped over her that made her look like she was wearing saggy character boobs, like when you play a comedic like elderly woman in like a school play or something like that.
the character that Jamie Lee Curtis played in Everything Everywhere All at Once, we'll say.
Yeah. Oh my God. They set a precedent, like Prom Night begat Everything Everywhere All at Once. Another fever dreamy kind of like situation, but I think a much more complex movie. I mean, this is complex, but like kind of like for, I don't know, I don't want to say for all the wrong reasons, but for reasons that just don't pan out for me. We start off with like some shitty ass kids. And then we watch them grow up, and all I want to do is kind of see them pay the price. And even that wasn't really, and maybe this is the point, maybe it's not supposed to be vindicating or give me any kind of like jolt of exhilaration, but it was neither scary nor exhilarating with justice, like it just kind of happened. And it's like, that sucks to be you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I will say that, yeah, like the kills were, kind of like they happened and they were over. But I do want to give props to at least like the Wendy chase scene, because that is like classic. Like that is, it's almost like Wendy walked so Sarah Michelle Gellar could run, or like Paris Hilton could run in House of Wax. They're just like all these people. Because I mean, I was even getting like House of Wax vibes, because she goes into like the shop class or whatever, and she's hiding in the car. Yeah. Very much like in that movie. Like it was a good scene. Like I was never like, felt tense for any of it, but
I was just going to say there was no tension for me. Yeah.
But it was fun. Like I was enjoying it. I was enjoying watching that scene rather than just seeing like them standing around at the prom and like talking to each other or doing their like, dance routine and shit like that.
Well, the dance is, anytime anybody speaks about this movie in any kind of like horror documentary, and there are a lot these days, whenever they bring about it, I feel like the dance is what they go to, and they just go, prom night, wow, 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 prom night, wow, wow. I have seen Jamie Lee Curtis swing that arm more times than I can count, and I've only seen this movie twice. But
there's a lot of gifs of her dancing. Yeah. There's the one in the whatever that John Travolta movie is, where they're at the aerobics.
Oh, right. In the aerobics, yeah. And getting all steamy for each other. I don't even remember what that movie's called.
That's a popular gif,
Yeah. What I did enjoy a lot in the way of like the prom night kind of like cutaways was Slick and Jude really hit it off. And I wasn't rooting for them, but Jude... I was kind of like unclear. I feel like I would watch the movie again just to kind of like watch Jude's arc, because she seems to start off really kind of like self-deprecating, or at least have like kind of low self-esteem. Like, nobody will go to the prom with me. Well, I don't know. She's just got like a very kind of like perky yet Eeyore vibe. You know what I mean? In the Handmaker Wood of this high school, and she And so this guy who's kind of like, hey, baby, basically like from his van. And she's like, ooh, maybe I could go to prom with him. And she does. And I was kind of worried about her, because everything about this guy's lead-in, like his invitation to anything, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like in this day and age, if you introduced a character the way they introduced Slick, and he does have another name, but I don't remember what it is.
I'm looking it up.
Okay, but Slick. So if you introduced a character exact same way in a movie today, you wouldn't be rooting for him. You wouldn't want him to get the girl. But I'm not watching it through a 2023 lens. I'm watching it through the nostalgia goggles of 1980, and I actually found myself kind of won over and charmed by the fact that she was legitimately having a good time with him. She loved having sex with him. She wanted to do it again. He was kind of like fascinated by her wanting to do it on the bluffs. They both really seemed to be on the same page in a way that none of the other characters seemed to be, none of the other couples. Yeah. Everybody seemed to just kind of be like either dull or at odds with each other. And I don't know, it was a lovely air bubble, in an underwater night.
His name was Seymour Crane.
Okay.
Suddenly Seymour.
Yeah, not for me.
What was funny about him is that, like, this is where I was confused, because when he drove up beside her, it was kind of like the impression that I got is that because he introduced himself like full name, that was the first time they ever met. And what I got from that is like he's not like he's out of high school, like he's like older, maybe he's like goes to college or something. But then he shows up later on, he's like at the cafeteria, and he was even in one of the deleted scenes. They're like all in class, and he's like standing out in the hall, like looking through the doorway and just like giving her eyes, and they're all giggling about it. So I was just thinking, like, so you go to this school. I mean, like, I've graduated from a smaller private school, but I've been to like, a big school institution where there's like hundreds of students. And I mean, even if I don't know everyone, like I would definitely, like if I saw someone, I'd be like, oh, I recognize them or whatever, especially someone who is driving around in this conspicuous van, every day for the entire school year. I would definitely remember them. Like he's not a character that kind of just, blends in with everyone. So
no, not at all.
Yeah, not great writing, but yeah, they were interesting. They were fun. The other character, okay, well, Kelly.
She
was no. Like she was giving me Selma Blair from Cruel Intentions.
Okay. Go.
I know, very very specific, but just kind of like that, like doe-eyed look, like, oh, I don't know what's going on, like just so like naive that. and like even like when we first see her as a grown up, because I think that's the scene you were quoting when she went outside and she's just like, who, I forget the line she says exactly.
Drew, is that you? Well, that's another thing. She sounded, I couldn't tell if she was masking an accent or attempting one because the little girl version of Kelly didn't have any discernible accent that I could hear. And actually, I thought the actress who played Kim's other friend, the blonde one with, I think most of the time she had pigtails.
Vicky?
Or maybe I was just... Yeah, Vicky.
She is like the PJ Souls of this movie.
Yeah, but I thought, as far as the aesthetic, I thought she resembled the little girl a lot more. So I was like, why isn't she playing the grown-up Kelly? Yeah. But the thing is, the Kelly has, again, that kind of like effortless, vulnerable thing where you just kind of see her and you just kind of think like, oh, wind must blow and she must go, like it's not difficult for her to feel a chill or to be afraid or to hesitate or doubt herself or anything like that. But I mean, but she also did feel it's kind of like she was a foreign exchange student all of a sudden for no reason. I just wish I could have, like you said, like I wish they could have brought up the past, at least, if not in a group altogether, because that would be maybe a little too on the nose and a little too I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I think
it doesn't matter because this is 18 years.
No, I know, from it, but I mean, just in terms of like for this movie, like it might just be a little too corny for them all to like reassemble and discuss like what happened, because to be friends at that age versus friends at the age and the amount of time that's passed and everything like that, I would have liked it better actually to see who would talk to who and how about the past. Like obviously anybody tries to talk to Wendy about it, she's going to shut that shit down or she's going to slough it off like it doesn't even matter. Yeah. And I would have liked to have seen something like that among them, same thing with like how was Kelly handling it.
Yeah. I think the problem
kind of chilling that nobody carried it with them except for Nick.
The problem really, did you say except for Nick?
Because he still carried it.
Well, barely. We saw the scene where he was just looking at the photo, but I think the problem really is kind of with like Jamie Lee Curtis, not with her in particular, because she's still, you know, doing everything that she needs to be doing here, but she's giving that like final girl by default energy, because she's not even on the killer's radar. Like, the killer's not going after her, obviously, because it's her brother, but which is ironic considering the Michael Myers,
which hadn't we didn't know that yet.
We didn't know it was her brother. Yeah, but it's almost like it. I mean, I know why they got her, because they wanted to have that star power, and they probably were able to get her for, you know, cheap, because she basically went to them. But what would have been interesting if she was like one of the bullies at the beginning. Yeah. And then that could have given us like more access to her character, and she could have been the one who was sort of like the moral compass, or the one that was carrying everything, and then had more of a connection with those other characters, and they could have talked about it. So it almost felt like kind of cheap that like there was just this like family, like the Hammond family, that's her last name, of just like Leslie Nielsen being the father, and then you got like the two surviving kids, and it just felt like there was like this big family unit, and it felt like almost like, okay, we're going to be focusing more on them, but we didn't really focus on them. We mostly focused on the four kids, but even then we didn't really get that focus, because nothing that happened with them had anything to do with the trauma or the guilt. And in a way, like, just going back to I Know What You Did Last Summer, because I mean, like, we talked about Julie James in that movie, and how like like as far as the final girl, but I mean, like, I still appreciate so much of like how that character was written, and, you know, even Jennifer Love Hewitt in it, because I mean, like, imagine if I Know What You Did Last Summer was basically this, where these characters just went about their lives in the most like flippant way possible. It's just like, we're not even thinking, it's not even on our radar anymore. It's just like a note, whatever.
It's been 6 years, move on. Next.
So I mean, there was a lot of things that they could have, like, it felt very like specifically written and not well thought out for, you know, how to make it the best prom night it could have been. And that's why I actually think that this is a movie that could be, you know, dare I say, remade or whatever, but just like, I don't think that we've truly seen the best possible version of Prom Night that we have. Like, every prom night's kind of been trash in a way.
Yeah, I mean, this is still better than the Brittany Snow one. It's not Brittany Snow's fault. It's just there's no other way for me to identify that one. Yeah. But it's still better. Doesn't mean great.
Yeah.
But I do have to say what you just said about like just maybe the lack of cohesiveness, and it just, because it really keyed in for me at the end of the movie as the credits were rolling. I know we're jumping all over the place, but it was I was so unclear as to even just Alex's POV. Like, you brought up Betsy Palmer, and that's immediately what I was craving at the end of the movie, was the Betsy Palmer of it all. Like, you have kind of no unanswered questions. That, I mean, the things that Betsy Palmer doesn't address only make her kind of more interesting in her Mrs. Voorhees speech, but she covers a lot of ground, and a lot of it is just backed up by passion and rage, and the fact that she's blindly telling Adrienne King, who had nothing to do with the death of her son, or Alice had nothing to do with the death of her son, you look what you did to him. That tells me everything I need to know. Yeah. On top of, kill her, mommy, kill her. Okay, I know everything I need. Thank you. I know. Yeah. From Alex's POV, I didn't understand the significance of why did he have to wait 6 years until prom night to start killing the people who presumably killed his sister in his eyes, you know, when he was a child.
Because there's no link to, like, prom in anything that happened in that prologue.
I mean, well, it's the anniversary, I guess. So maybe he just figured, like, it's the anniversary of her death. what better way to avenge her 6th death anniversary than to kill? I mean,
they said that this would have been her first prom if she was alive.
Right. She would have been a junior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, again, there's no laws that say. I remember there was a junior prom, I believe. Or you know what? No, it wasn't a junior prom, but there were juniors who went to the prom. Because there were some seniors who were dating juniors or whatever in my high school. I don't know if the rules changed significantly, about 20 years later. But
so how about that? Okay, so here's a completely alternate universe for what prom night could have been. Leslie Nielsen is the principal of the school. 6 years earlier, his daughter is going to be crowned the prom queen, and there's a freak accident or whatever, and then and she dies or whatever. Maybe we don't even have to know that he's the father or whatever. We just see that he's the principal, and then we see him in the present day, and he's still the principal. But at the end, we find out she was my daughter. And all of you, or whatever, it doesn't even necessarily.
She never called him
to
dad
be the
on accident in front of the other kids,
and they all started laughing at her.
Right. But no, already, that's an interesting movie. I would have watched that.
But I mean, but then that takes away the I know what you did element. But we don't even get the I know what you did element. It's more just like the revenge element. But I do love like the calling of them, like, because that was a fun moment at the beginning.
I started making a list at one point because there were a lot of things that reminded me of other movies while I was watching this movie. But
speaking of lists, sorry, because I love that he has like 4 names written on a list, and he has to keep track of them, of who I call. It's like Uma Thurman, Kill Bill, like. All right, I've taken care of it. Like, I only have 5 people.
Although I don't know, it works for me in Kill Bill. It's like I don't know. I don't know. For some reason, it works. There's maybe because also it works more cinematically. Like it adds to the pacing of the editing and everything like that. Ching. Yeah. There's like sound effects and other things going on, and like her talking into the looking in the lens and talking to the camera. I mean, there's other stuff going on there. But with this one, the thing that I felt most strongly late in the movie, I think it was right before Lou and his thugs made their plan clear that they were going to beat up Nick. Great. I just wrote, this killer may have, because I kept thinking, they're trying to do Michael Myers. Like even the allusion they made to how Leonard, the reformed ? Child predator who escaped from a mental facility the night before. Yeah, I wrote it down. I guess that's what they called him, Leonard something. But he pulled basically like a Michael Myers escape. So I'm like, okay, and we got Jamie Lee there and everything like that. And we've got like this kind of like thing. Yeah, and this kind of thing happening, like now we're in suburbia and we're watching these kids interact for a great bulk of the movie and everything. Like, that was another thing that didn't work for me too. I kept thinking like there's no like Sam Loomis for me. Like they tried with whatever that guy's name was. It just never hooked me. I checked out of every one of the detectives, if that's what he was.
And was he the father of Nick?
I don't know.
I don't. Well, no, because I remember, because at the end he like he's like speaks directly to Kim, and he says like, Kim, don't go near him or whatever. Like just like, how do you know her name? But I think that's because it's the father. I mean, I wasn't paying attention to the grown-ups in this movie, but I think that's like when they left the house at the beginning, when Nick didn't pick up the phone. I think it was his dad.
That I can't remember. I remember him being with his father, but I never linked it. I never looked at the face on that man. Who I know the scene exactly because as they're leaving the phone's ringing, and Nick even says, "It's okay, it's my phone."
Yeah,
and it's like, so you don't have to answer your phone. All right, but yeah, you were saying.
I almost feel like that should have been the role that Leslie Nielsen played, because I think that he was in the movie so much more. He had more to do, and like really, if you like got the screen times for this, of the characters, like Jamie Lee Curtis is barely in the movie. I wouldn't be surprised if like or like Wendy had more screen time. The detective over the principal, like the Leslie Nielsen playing the principal, because he does disappear at the end, and I remember misremembering and thinking that Leslie Nielsen was the detective, and then seeing at the end that no, it's this other guy, and that whole story, because that's like the red herring. That's the, like, when I watch Scream and you hear Randy say if they watched Prom Night they'd save time, and I was just like, what does that mean? Because I like Prom Night, and I'm assuming that he's referring to this particular plot thread of just like the police are on the wrong trail, and if they had watched Prom Night, they would know that it has nothing to do with the father, because that's just it's a red herring, and that they should be focusing on Billy.
Well, because that's what I wrote. I wrote after, because as I was saying, like, I thought a lot of Halloween, but then I thought this killer may have actually more in common with Ghostface than with Michael Myers. Because the first thing that struck me actually was the fact that the mask was made out of that black sparkle fabric that immediately reminded me of Ghostface's hood and shroud and whatever. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay, so that's one thing. Then I thought, like, oh, there's a personal vendetta. Because again, this time going into the viewing, I knew who the killer was and I knew what the motive was. And seeing the opening sequence kind of like, like rekindled, like, oh, there's the little boy. Okay, so he must have hung around and seen it. Okay, I think I remember this. But yeah, so a personal vendetta to kind of right a wrong from the past. Mm-hmm. That's very Ghostface. And then calling your victims ahead of time to let them know you're going to kill them. Very Ghostface. And then just the sea of red herrings. Like that one guy, the creepy janitor whose name I don't remember. But like it seemed like such an obvious red herring. Like, even how many times did Jamie Lee Curtis like look over her shoulder and run away from him?
Yeah.
It was more than twice, wasn't it? But there was one more nod that I actually appreciated to another film, and also just like another composer. It was after, I don't even remember why there was broken glass that the creepy janitor was cleaning up, but he was cleaning up broken glass for some reason. I think it was in the locker room. And as he was cleaning it up, there was this music cue that seemed very Bernard Herrmann-esque. Like, it was almost as though the conductor of the orchestra playing it was stepping up into silhouette at the bottom of the screen going, "Everybody now!" We're all supposed to sing along with the Psycho score. It just reminded me of Norman Bates cleaning up Cabin 1 after Marion Crane.
I do want to talk about the music, but that scene with the glass, because the killer was in the locker room and they smashed the glass. That's when. Did you go to the bathroom when that scene was playing?
No, it was happening. I just this movie. I remembered so little.
Well, because he took the shard. He took the shard of glass, and that was like what he used.
Oh, that's right. He took the shard of glass. And he was chasing after them, and they saw the glass was missing, and they were like, oh, "Look."
Yeah.
So silly.
Yeah. But the composer for this was Paul Zaza, who did the music for Black Christmas, and I definitely noticed the similarities there. But another interesting story about the music in the movie is that when they filmed it, during all the prom scenes, they used like actual like hit disco songs, so like Dancing Queen and whatnot. And then after the fact, they realized like, okay, well, we're gonna have to pay like royalties out the wazoo. It was gonna cost like $800,000. It's like more than the actual budget of the movie. So they got Paul Zaza to like go and redo the music, or just like I think specifically what he said is that he was asked to make new music but make it sound similar enough that they would get sued but that they would win. And there is a point in the movie I think it's like, it sounds very much like Dancing Queen, or something, but it was just like it was so much like it was the same tempo and all that, and I just thought it was hilarious. But I think that because I liked it's almost like underscored in a way of like what he does, which was very similar to Black Christmas. But I think just going back to that comparison of like, why did Friday the 13th excel? Because I think that it was like the story was set up much better obviously it's not as well filmed a movie, but you do have the Harry Manfredini score in that, which is so bombastic, like it's overscored in a way, and like in all the best ways possible. So I think that move, like Friday the 13th, is so loud and in your face, where this is very restrained in every aspect of it. So
background versus foreground. Yeah.
Maybe that's why, like, audiences, that's what they respond to more. It's just like loud movies that are flashy, you know, like.
Well, because it's interesting because with Friday the 13th also, and maybe arguably with Halloween and Black Christmas, they're all terribly simple stories made complex. And I think that this movie definitely is that. But the things that are made complex, don't kind of like aren't buoyant, don't help kind of like lift it up, you know. They don't, they just tend to kind of like go real okay, well, that just happened, all right. Like even the I wonder what it must have been like for audiences to watch the since we're talking about the disco music, to watch the disco dancing in it. I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure, actually. I don't know for sure. I mean, this was shot in Canada. But hopefully proms in 1980 were this disco-centric or whatever. I mean, I know that it was heavily controversial for as many years, and for most of the time that it was popular, because a lot of people associated it with, you know, drug abuse and with recreational sex, because that's bad, and you know, just kind of like these depraved, you know, elements of like an inadequate lifestyle or something, you know, like just something that, you know, has no moral character or anything like that, and it was chipping away and destroying our society and whatever. But then you get to watch like a bunch of quote unquote American teenagers doing these moves and refining them, and even having them, you know, somewhat choreographed in advance. Like in my day, it was like, you know, well, not even my day. I mean, not when I was this age. I don't think there were any dances that were in vogue when I was a teenager. But I remember being in grade school, and it was like the Roger Rabbit and the Smurf and the Running Man, and, you know, like shit like that. Yeah. That was probably the last stage of like the dance move. The Macarena's one. That was
probably like mid 90s.
Yeah, but it wasn't something you could do to anything.
Yeah,
I don't remember a lot of people doing the Macarena when the Macarena wasn't playing, you know. but with this one, it was, I don't know, it was interesting to see it, because the disco dancing for me, and I don't know, maybe this was just to keep the censors off of their asses, but it seemed so incredibly tame to me. Like it was entertaining, it was good, but I mean, even the audience, like all the background while they're watching it, just seems so placid, you know, just sitting there, just kind of like they were not enthused at all. Like maybe there's one person kind of ooh, ooh, but then everybody else just kind of has their arms crossed, and they're standing perfectly still. They're not moving in tune with the music, and they're not even clapping or smiling. They're just standing there looking tired, like they're not getting paid enough.
Yeah. It was, I mean, that was weird altogether, because I thought that their dance together was supposed to come after they were announced and crowned. So they just got up there. They're like, "Oh, let's dance now," because I think that they wanted to make what's their faces jealous and just show them that, like, we're gonna have a good time, and it doesn't matter what you think. And everyone just kind of like cleared a space, because this was like everyone's time, but they just kind of went on the middle of the floor and started dancing, and everyone was just watching them. Like, but we knew from like dialogue that he was sort of like the disco king, like, because his dad said it, just like, if you. Because he was taking a long time to get ready for school. It's just like, if you moved as fast getting ready for school as you did on the disco floor, you know, we'd be out of here. So they had to set up that he knew how to dance disco. And then the scene with her, you know, practicing when Wendy confronted her with the spotlight. That's when we knew she was good too. So they had to set it up properly and show us. But then, but it was just one of those things where, you know, typical high school movies where just like, these are the main characters, and all of us like have background extra
Yes.
energy, so we're just gonna let them do what
Yes.
they do. I noticed they even did like the Titanic thing when they're like swinging around and the camera shot was even
Yes.
on
Which
them.
is also the Saturday Night Fever thing. Isn't that a shot from Saturday Night Fever?
I
Maybe
never watched.
I've seen the movie, but I haven't seen it in like 15 years. Probably about the same as
Well,
seeing Prom
you would
Night.
know better than I.
But I also got a vibe that like maybe, again, you know me, headcanon. I was wondering if like it seemed to be like an element of the world they were all occupying, like in the disco world. If you were the king and queen of anything at that particular event, that you got to prove yourselves, so they almost had to kind of like defend their turf and prove their worth as the king and queen of the prom, their titles as the prom royals to couple B. Couple A had to outdance couple B. But see, even that would have been great if they had like a dance off. Yeah. Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
I mean, even going back to that idea of like why have they already pre-chosen who the king and queen are, because there could have been a really fun story for Wendy if she was like vying for the crown as well.
Yeah.
And then that could have made sense for what her scheme was, as just like, I want to be the prom queen and I'm going to make sure that I get it. And
Yes. And I'm going to go with this guy. He says no. This guy, he said no. He's already got it. Oh, I'll just take you then. And that could have set up some even better comedy for like a guy who doesn't give a shit about being prom king, except maybe it's gonna like that bitch's brother got me in trouble and got me suspended, so I'm gonna go stand on stage with her. Like, I mean, again, just more illustrious. Just invite us in, movie. We're watching you. We one of the things though, again, because I feel like all I'm doing is complaining. One of the other, because I mentioned the one cutaway that I appreciated a lot. Another cutaway that I appreciated for quite the opposite reasons. It wasn't endearing. It was actually quite heartbreaking. But again, very abrupt. It was, I don't remember. Oh, his name was Drew. Drew.
Yeah.
But, yes, Kelly's boy.
Yeah.
Little Kelly talking about like how he's been, I don't know if the word is threatening up until that point to like have sex with another girl, and she's worried about losing her virginity, and her friends set her up, like literally that night tell her like, it's just like getting a shot. Losing your virginity feels just like getting a shot. And I'm like, pain-wise? Or like, I mean, it's so it's such an inaccurate, I mean, from my own experience, it's an inaccurate description. But then Drew kind of makes the decision out of fear to, commit to losing her virginity that night with Drew. Mm-hmm. I mean, not Drew. Kelly decides with Drew. Sorry, I'm just mixing all the names up. Kelly and Drew decide that they're going to do it. And then Kelly starts to get, like cold feet in the middle and everything like that. And he coaxes her a little bit and says, come on, you know how I feel about you. And I don't know if it's in that voice, but that's how I hear it. And then... And then she decides to go on and like, I know how you feel about me and everything like that. But then she realizes she really can't, and she asks him to stop. And that's when he turns into a major douche, Drew the douche. And he says, what are you, some fairy tale princess? And something to the effect of like, look, if you don't want this, there's plenty of girls who will get in line for it, or something like that. And then he just kind of like leaves her. And it made me sad. I mean, it was an effective moment because it made me feel really, really bad for Kelly, because she's kind of at her most vulnerable. She's also topless at that particular moment. Mm-hmm. And she's just been stripped down emotionally by this guy who at 1 minute was talking about, you know how I feel about you. What's wrong with you? And then just leaves. I'm going to go screw some girl who's interesting and fun. And then she gets killed, and I felt for her in that moment. I was just kind of like, God, she's already having a bad night, It would have been hilarious to me actually if Alex would have like come in to kill her, seen that, and been kind of like, wow, and just walked away,
or
like,
killed both of them. That's the thing. Like this movie had a lot of opportunities and a lot of like characters, some shitty and some not, that I mean could have made for some really good cannon fodder. Because you mentioned the blonde girl with the pigtails earlier, who I liked. Not that I necessarily needed to see her get killed off. Vicky, played by Peta Oliver. But I mean, that could have been a character, like just the fact that, I would think like if I liked her, like she mooned the creepy janitor guy, like she was endearing, that she could have been like a fun like PJ Souls type of kill at some point, like like the killer, like that's the thing, like that Alex is kind of a sympathetic killer at the end. Like I actually feel worse for him and Kim than I do for anyone else in this movie. Like like that was sad at the end. That, I mean, I think the fact that he's only specifically going after these people, but it was like it's almost like we talked about when we did Valentine. Like there were so many awful characters in that movie that could have been like great kills, and they just didn't. They like ignored it. And I think that if they had just gone off the rails with this and just been like, the killer's a psychopath, they're just rampantly going after everyone. Because I mean, like, you could make a case like he killed Slick. I mean, granted, Slick drove off the bluff and did it to himself, but because he was attacked, like he was going to kill him anyway, so that there's already confusion there. So why not kill Drew? Why not kill the janitor who's just kind of like all over the place and spying around on he's like the crazy
bodies.
Ralph, the crazy Ralph character. There's a lot of opportunities, and they just kind of stuck with they played it safe, we'll say.
Yeah, the only character I don't think they played it safe with was, not as safe, because I still would have loved more from her, is Wendy. I love the fact that she is such a loser when she's confronting, never more a loser than when she's confronting Nick, and I'm just like, God, he's not interested, honey. Yeah. Like, what are you hoping to achieve?
She does that thing at the beginning, because like when the phone rings and she thinks it's him. And she's like, I'm gonna let it ring 4 times, and then I'll pick it up. And she still picked up the phone and said, Nick, like if you're gonna commit to making them wait, then you have to like pick it up and be like, hello, who is this? Like...
Or even just like she does that thing that actually felt pretty authentic to kids. I don't know about teens, maybe teens in 1980. I don't know, but I remember watching children do that thing where you're putting it yourself all out there, and then somebody like makes you feel bad, so you just kind of act like, well, it's your loss, because she does exactly that, where she's just kind of like, come on, Nick, just whatever. And she's just kind of like all over him, and he's just kind of like, no, I told you, I'm with Kim now, or whatever he says, and she's just kind of like, well, you blew it. And I'm just like, he doesn't care, honey. He doesn't give a shit. You can't play like, like, oh, you had your last chance with me, and then answer the phone. Nick, hello, hi, I've been waiting for your call all day. I mean, but again, very entertaining.
I mean, but it still makes her like one of the most interesting characters of the movie, and that's what I like about her.
Contradictions
and the
great.
Fact that she's fabulous. Like you already mentioned the red dress. I want to see like a fanfic movie of just like all like the bitch characters from these slashers like just come together, and just like maybe that can be a future Survivor. Just like the bitches versus the final girls or something like that.
Oh my gosh, kids, guys listening to this, gals, and those who
guys
do not identify
dolls.
as either. Guys and dolls and everybody in between or otherwise, let us know if you want a Survivor that is comprised of, how did you put it? Just the bitch girls?
I don't know. Don't
the
put
bitches
that.
of horror.
Don't ask anyone. We're not committing to anything. But I want to know. I did want to talk about that actress though, who plays Wendy Richards. So the character.
Yes.
Anne Marie Martin, but she was credited as
Sounds
Eddie
familiar.
Benton.
She
went on to marry Michael Crichton, and they wrote the screenplay of Twister together. So she wrote Twister with her husband.
Oh my God, she's Joe. Oh my God, that's Helen Hunt's role in Twister. I love that movie.
Is that?
Oh my God,
is that her? I don't know what that means, but
no, I mean it just means that like I feel like anytime there's a character that little girls kind of like emulate and want to be, and even little boys, arguably. Like Ellie Sattler is another one. Like I live inside Laura Dern's performance in Jurassic Park, but I love the Ellie Sattler of the book, and the only reason she's like that is because allegedly Michael Crichton's wife, who I presume is this actress, Wendy, read his book and said, "You don't have." Anne Marie read the book the first draft or a draft or an early draft of the book and said, "You don't have Ellie doing enough. You need to give her, something to do. She's just the woman right now, and I'm not interested in her." And so he wrote some things for Ellie to do and made her interesting.
Okay, so that is the context that I needed to understand what you meant by that. But you might also remember her as she was in Halloween 2. She played the character of Darcy Esmont, who is the one who's like coming out of the party with Nurse Karen in the scene where Michael Myers walks through the thing. She's like,
"You promised
you drive me home." Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Well, you gotta do it with your mouth. That's how you bob for apples.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
That's her. That's Wendy.
Oh. Oh, I have so much. I already had affection for her just because of her performance in this movie, but now, Anne Marie, love you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
She's
that's
got
great.
she's got a very eclectic, not a large, but a very eclectic resume. And I don't know what she's doing now because he died, Michael Crichton, but I think she was already divorced from him. But I'm sure she's doing just fine. She wasn't included in any of the features. Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't in it, but they had the actresses who played Jude and Kelly, and the one who played Alex, all talking on it. But she wasn't there. It would have been interesting to see her, what she had to say about Wendy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And of course, Jamie Lee would never do it because it's beneath her. It may as well just be the Halloween Ends
I don't talk
premiere
about that movie anymore. Next, I don't really have much more to say about this movie. I will see it again. Like, I mean, even hearing like the allusions you made to giallo, which I didn't. I maybe I felt but didn't articulate to myself. So, and like I said, like to really thrive on the moments now that there are some memorable moments to me from this screening that I didn't carry over from my first screening. I'd watch it again in a few years or even next week if somebody had never seen it before and wanted to see it. I'd be down. I'd be like, let's watch it, and it'll be one of those screenings where you just talk through it. But I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like eager to go ahead and watch it right away, but I'm glad I have it on Blu-ray now because like those old 720p DVDs were not good quality, and I mean I don't need to upgrade the sequels because I'm sure I don't think we're going to be covering them on here, and I don't really need to get into them.
Really?
But I am kind of interested to see again because I do have it, but the Brittany Snow. One I know it's terrible, but I just want to remember how terrible it is.
Yeah, no, I would watch that with you,
thanks.
For this. Yeah, I would
Not
watch
with me?
that for you. Well, I mean, you're in another country.
When we like get around to do because we'll eventually get into remakes, because we've discussed that before. Because I'm not eager to just cover only remakes, and I don't want to like just get through everything and realize that all we have left is remakes. Not that would ever happen.
Right.
There's so many movies, but
still,
that is one that we could possibly do at one point.
Okay. Also, I wouldn't discount Hello, Mary Lou because it does have quite a cult following these days. Like.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me.
It's absurd.
I just remember like
the
reasons. Song because it's just like, "Hello, Mary Lou, goodbye."
Oh, no. See, I remember so much more than the song. Like that movie. I would never call it good, but it is certainly memorable. Yeah. Like and I only saw that one once, I think. Too.
Oh. Well, there's been a lot of movies we've gone over that you've only seen once that you thought you loved and you turned out to hate them. So.
I didn't say I loved it, but it's memorable. I would watch it again. And no, I predict I would have pretty much a pretty similar experience to my first one, especially knowing what's coming. I'd be like, there it is, with like these incredible transcendental moments.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing I want to say before we get to the cherry picker is that what I would be interested in seeing first before anything else is Terror Train, just to kind of, and The Fog, to cover on this, just because I want to kind of get like a ranking of like the because obviously Halloween, and then just like where did the other I guess we know that The Fog is after Halloween, but then which one is better, Terror Train or Prom Night?
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
And because I don't know that I need to add Halloween 2 or Road Games into that ranking. But
I may need to. I'm curious about this Road Games now.
What? Oh, haven't you seen it? What
I don't
else?
think so, no.
Are the Halloweens the only other horror movies that she's done? Like, H2O and Resurrection, and then the new ones. But she hasn't done any other horror movies besides.
They're the only ones I can remember, but I'm going back to her IMDb page all the way, actress, all the way down to the bottom, and I'm just going to chronicle this. We got all her TV work.
No, this would be more recent.
Angels.
This would be like in the last 20 years because.
No, I know, but I'm starting at the beginning and just like looking, seeing if there's anything else that jumps out. I mean, she was the curfew announcer and the telephone operator, uncredited in Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. She was in something called Tall Tales and Legends. Oh no, that was a television show. She played Annie Oakley.
No, I think that's it from what I see, and I don't count Halloween 3. I mean, it should be. She deserves to be recognized for that, but I mean, just
Mother's Boys. Well, that's a thriller.
It's it's adjacent, and that was before H2O. That was one of the movie posters in Bradley's video and in Scream.
Right.
Virus,
which is more action horror sci-fi kind of thing. That's too many. That's not like pure horror.
Yeah.
That's too many subcategories to straddle. I didn't have fun with Christmas with the Cranks, but it's not a horror movie, but it scared me. And then Scream Queens, pretty much it. And then all the Halloween. The new Halloween trilogy, the latest Halloween trilogy.
Apparently she's never going to do another horror movie again because she hates them.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But she'll do another Freaky Friday. Anyway.
I stopped believing what Jamie Lee Curtis predicted about her a long time ago. So.
It was funny because in this featurette, when they were explaining just how she came on board, or just like when they went to like meet with her, and they called her, what they said about her, and I don't know how old this featurette was. They're just like, well, she was like a salesperson. Like, she was really like selling herself for this role. And just like, Jesus Christ, she's been doing it for years. If she can sell yogurt that makes you shit, like she can sell anything.
Yeah.
So good for her.
Have to. Yeah. You have to keep your head above water in this business. Yeah. So in that vein, good for her.
Yeah. But. All right, let's get to the cherry picker.
It's not like we kill people on purpose.
Okay, we need to pick a cherry on top, and I mean, you know what I'm gonna say, but
Wendy.
Do you have another? Yeah, it's Wendy. It's gotta be Wendy.
She made a lot of the movie for me. There were, like I said, there were some other performances and some other moments with the other two girls killers killed, who I enjoyed. But I mean, come on, Wendy.
Yeah, it's Wendy.
Wendy.
That's Wendy.
There's no drama without Wendy. Yeah.
Wendy is like. It's funny that you can kind of go back and look at some of these slasher movies from yesteryear, and like the characters who are typically like the villain type roles that are not the heavy, and you're just like, oh yeah, I hated that bitch, and like they were awful, but you look at them now and just like, but they were the movie. And I think a good example of that is Tamara in Jason Takes Manhattan, because that movie is such a slog, mostly because of the couple. And it's just like, oh, where's that bitchy girl? Like, she should have been around longer.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I appreciate that Wendy is kind of like Like, she's not the last one to die, but she kind of makes it farther than everyone else, other than, like, Lou. But anyway, last week, we asked you who deserves to die the most in The Craft. I nominated Ray Saunders, which was Nancy's deadbeat stepfather. You nominated Chris Hooker, who was Skeet Ulrich's character, the douchey quarterback. And across Patreon, Instagram, and YouTube, the total was 744 for Ray versus 275 for Chris.
Thanks, guys, for trying.
Oh, stop it.
No.
So let's just see what some of the peeps got to say about this. Angelica Noel. While Chris was definitely a complete tool with zero respect for women, he's technically still a kid with the potential for mental growth and a chance to change his ways. Ray was already a grown man who possibly sexually abused his own stepdaughter and abused Nancy's mother right in front of her. Ray is absolutely a disgusting pig. I had zero sympathy for him. Sarita Hodgson. Chris was a gross dude that when put under a spell, he became an obsessed gross dude. But one scene with Ray was all we needed to want him dead. Parker.
I like that.
Parker says, Skeet's fine ass, we not killing him.
Oh, Jesus.
Sucked.
Reach higher, folks. Go on. Sorry.
Are you saying that about Skeet or Chris?
Not Skeet,
both?
Chris. No. Don't reach higher than Skeet. Like, in this day and age, like, I'd reach for Skeet. But Chris...
Reach for Skeet.
Go on.
Reach
for Skeet. That's my bumper
We need like
sticker.
a t-shirt that says
Yes.
Reach for Skeet. Sucked says
Not Chris on the
Ray
back.
for sure for obvious reasons, but also because Chris gets what he deserves in another life in Scream, 1996. Never mind being resurrected as a force of good in Scream 5 and 6. Okay, he was not resurrected as a force for good in those movies. He was just like
No.
he was trying to like rile her up, and you know.
Also, there's that is such a conversation. That is a pod in and of itself. Anyway, maybe one day we'll have that pod. Go on.
Pod. We're on this pod right now. Thomas Baker. Ray was so nasty.
Yes.
Elliot from
Yes.
Orlando. I gotta be Team Zack this week. Hey. Ray was only in 2 scenes, and boy, did we know everything we needed to know about who he was. An abusive, drunk, and a pervert. Chris was gross, but Ray was violent without the excuse of being under a spell. My honorary pick for the picker is Laura Lizzie, because racist bitches should be cherry-picked by default, in my opinion. This movie is one of my all-time favorites, and I'm excited to see you guys covering it. Much love, and keep up the great work. Thank you, Elliot from Orlando. And you know what? Maybe if you did pick Laura Lizzie, the votes might have been more.
I doubt it. I feel like people would have been like, "Who? What? Why didn't you pick Chris?" I
don't know. I don't. Maybe this should be like another poll. Like, should Eddie?
No, but
have
I've had
picked
too many.
Laura?
I've had too many conversations with people talking about Laura Lizzie in The Craft. Off pod, and just like people who think like, but she felt bad, and I'm like, no, oh god. So I don't. You'd be surprised, Zach. I think you had it in the bag for this one.
Okay. Amethyst Frost. I love this movie for how unabashedly 90s it is, but I do hate how throwaway Bonnie and Rochelle end up being, and that it concludes with the girls all fighting. My interpretation is that Bonnie and Rochelle were at best more like conduits for Sarah and Nancy's power. Lyria only ever comments on the powers of Sarah and Nancy, and every spell, including Bonnie's beauty and Rochelle's revenge spell, had one or both of Sarah and Nancy present in doing the casting. This helps explain why they fall in line with Nancy so quickly and get deflected by Sarah so easily in the climax. Anyway, I vote for Ray. It's funny because I remember on the original Patreon pod that Zack picked Ray and Eddie picked Laura. Sure, Jan Lizzie. Oh. Okay. And I was shocked that Laura didn't win because she's so memorably awful. Between these two, though, Chris's worst qualities were brought out by magic, but Ray was a piece of shit by default. 1996 wasn't a good year for the survival rate of Skeet Ulrich's characters.
But his career is another story.
Yeah,
everybody knew who Skeet Ulrich was all of a sudden.
We did cover this on the old podcast.
On the old pod. Yeah, and Laura Lizzie didn't win then either. So
apparently, I don't remember though. But
oh, really?
Moving along, National Sports Entertainment (NSE). Wait, how has nobody ever mentioned Billy and Sid were in a movie together before Scream? How has anyone not?
How has no?
Yeah.
I don't know who you're talking to, darling.
Yeah.
But okay,
Darling.
We now have now.
Yeah, I mean, we did mention in the episode that they feel like completely different characters in this movie.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to the quality of acting. Daisy 10727. Ray 100%. He was a jerk. Chris was shorty teenager put under a spell, which made him even worse. Ray wasn't under a spell.
See, people forgive weird things sometimes in these polls. I don't understand, but go on.
Well, I don't think that it's a weird thing. He was under the thrall of magic.
He wasn't. I mean, if he had been under a spell the whole movie, I would say okay. But I don't know.
But okay. Mendejo. Mendejo. Send them all home. Nicole Page Brooks from Atlanta, Georgia. I don't get that reference. Do you?
Nicole Page Brooks is a drag queen from Georgia. Yeah.
Oh, okay. My drag queen knowledge is not embarrassingly like little, so that makes sense. Blueberry. Ray is the same kind of person, but has had more time to turn over a new leaf and hasn't. So off with his head. Adam, Daddy Queen's Fantastic World. While I agree Ray is a douchebag, I have to pick Chris. He is that asshole guy in school that we have all had to deal with that would be a total creep to everyone not in his jock friend group. He obviously had hurt Nancy in the past and then turned around and tried to hurt Sarah. I don't understand why she still desired him unless on a subconscious level she was using her spell to hurt him back. Just my opinion though. I love this movie, your podcast, and both of you guys. Thank you,
Aww.
Adam Daddy Queen's Fantastic World.
Yes, thank you for all of it.
Howl puns. They're both pretty slimy, but Ray really takes the cake. Grant Dempsey. Ray, for the awful man that even his very limited screen time establishes that he is, but also for surely being one of the biggest causes of Nancy's madness. It had been a long time since I saw this movie, by the way. Very glad to have had this occasion to finally watch it again. Movie Maniac 03. I went with Chris mainly because he is in a lot more of the movie, and in the beginning I was like, I kind of like this character, then it went to, oh, I hate this guy, back to, okay, he's kind of likable, likable, then back to, oh, I hate him. I mean, come on, pick a lane and stay with it. And then they killed him off, so I was kind of happy with that.
Nice.
Silent Saturn. Chris was a bellend, but his worst crime came after being put under a spell, so not sure he's to blame for that. Ray has no such excuse. He's super vile, and my vote goes to him. Dishonorable mention goes to Mitt and Trey, Chris's douchey sidekicks who enable and egg him on. Yeah,
but even they're barely in the movie. They disappear off the face of the earth at a certain point.
Well, they're scattered about the movie. I mean, I think after the his
like
demise.
The first half.
Yeah, well, they're not in it anymore after Chris is gone because they have no meaning left in their lives. They have to go find a new male Regina
disappear.
George.
They literally they evaporate. They cease to exist.
Exactly. They turn to
and
dust.
that's not even a spell. It's just the way guys like that operate.
Yeah. JB, surprised neither picked Laura. Sean P. Don't remember much about either of them or even the movie for that matter, but what little I remember is that Chris was really annoying. That's my vote then. However, Skate was still always will still always be the most down-to-earth celebrity I have met in person, as well as one of the nicest.
Aww. That's nice.
Have you ever met Skeet?
No.
No.
And if I were
Neither
to meet
have
him
I,
now, no. And back in the day, I might have been kind of like, oh, he's a good actor, but I don't get what everybody sees now. And now I'd probably just be kind of like, I don't know.
You
I think he's
would
only
do the
improved.
Nev like.
Yeah. He'd make me Nev. Because
The Nev gasp.
No, I mean, I think he's only improved with age. Like I didn't get it back in the day, and I was surrounded by a lot of friends who absolutely got it. The Skeet thing. The Skeet is so cute. Skeet is so hot. Skeet
What
is
was
so
his
thing.
What was his real name again? Fuck, it was like
Oh God,
Trout.
I don't remember, and I don't
like Brian Trout or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
something Trout. I don't,
Yeah.
but I
For
don't
anyone
want
who
to
didn't-
guess
who
because it'll
didn't-
sound
yeah.
like it'll sound like I'm putting him down, and I don't want to put him down. So, but it sounded, yeah.
No, it's just interesting every time I hear Skeet because it's like
Yeah.
stage as Judy Jurgenstern would say, stage name.
And what was her real name?
It was Judy Jurgenstern.
Oh, it's Judy Jurgensen, right? Because
Yeah.
because she's Jennifer something or
Jolie.
other.
It was actually
Jolie. Yes,
Judy
yeah, it's getting late.
Jurgenstern.
I forgot Jennifer Jolie's last name. Wow.
Yeah.
Just
Jolie.
end the pod.
Okay, calm down. There's just a few left. Or this is the last one. Mysterious one. Ray for sure. Chris was a pig, but the reason he became obsessed, he was under control of the magic. Ray, however, was an abusive asshole. He deserved every bit of it. So, with that said, I get first pick.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited. I'm gonna go for. Should I have to look up because I want to get his last name too.
I just see you as like Courtney standing there going, "Thank you so much."
This is so unexpected.
I killed Liz. I killed the teen dream. What?
Deal with it.
Miss Sherwood, fix it.
I'm going
That
to.
movie.
Yes, that movie, which we covered on Cherry Picker After Dark, but we'll get more to that.
Yeah.
After. I'm picking the character whose name is Drew Shinnick. His last name is Shinnick.
Wow.
Is that you, Drew Shinnick? And just
Yeah.
because I almost feel like the only other person that I could vote for, it's just like it's almost expected, like that's just part of their nature. I'm not going to say specifically who it is because that might be your vote, but it's almost like when you're a high school bully, that's who you are. Mm-hmm. With him, he's putting on this pretense that he's like this sensitive, caring boyfriend, and really he's just a piece of shit. What does he say to her? He's just like, "Who are you, some fairy tale princess?"
Yeah.
So yeah, fuck that guy. Oh, and the way that he throws the corsage, like he just discards it. So like, like he's just like disgusted with her. Like what a piece of shit. Fuck that guy, Drew Shinnick. That's my nomination.
And don't we literally see him like move on and get it on with another girl like within minutes? Like
if it
minutes
happened,
later?
it was like in the background, and I wasn't really paying attention
Yeah.
to. You were more like focused on like what the bored teenagers standing around in the circle. I didn't. I was just focused on Jamie Lee and the dancing.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go obvious, and I'm gonna pick Lou. I don't know his last name, because he's
Farmer.
gross. His name should just be Lou Gross. Lou Farmer Gross.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Lou that really bothered me, and actually it bothered me about the whole school, but it's the fact that he felt the freedom to, number one, like take any kind of like physical liberties with a girl who was not consenting, like up and down, she was not consenting. And he was doing it not only in broad daylight, not only on school grounds, but in the fucking cafeteria, in front of her brother, who then was the only one who rose to her defense. And they both somehow ended up being in trouble for it. Like even, I can't remember what it was, but like when Like he's standing there, and like the teachers come in and they're just like, "What is all this?" And they're just kind of like, "He was just protecting me." Teacher doesn't even follow up and go like, "What from?" Like, what happened to you, poor girl who was just victimized like publicly, and now the only people who care about it are like her nearest and dearest. And anyway, so
it was a different time.
But then Lou, like, marches in with his entitlement and just stands there and acts like, yeah, it's a big surprise. Like, the principal's, the dad of the guy who I got. And just feels absolutely, he never learns a lesson. He never even fears for his life. He just kind of fumbles through life loserly. He fails, not upwards, but I have a feeling if he ever... If he was ever going to fail in any direction, it feels like he would have, but luckily he got beheaded. But by the time he was the kill that was the most satisfying to me in the movie, actually. The fact that we got to see his severed head roll down the runway at that prom was deeply satisfying to me. And the fact that also, after the cruelty that poor Robin had experienced from those 4 kids... The fact that there's a character who is not one of those 4 kids who I can feel even more malice towards really says something about him. So, down with Lou. Fuck that fucker. Ugh.
I guess my only rebuttal would be that Lou died and Drew didn't.
Okay.
So there you go. You got Drew and you got Lou. So for your heart, for your conscience. And that poll is open on Patreon, Instagram. Our Instagram handle is @thecherrypickerpod, so please follow us there. You can also vote on YouTube in the community tab. Just go to The Cherry Picker on YouTube. If you are new to the podcast and you are listening to us, please subscribe to us over there. You can watch these episodes as well in video format and watch our faces. And all the great editing that Andre Felix does. So thank you to Andre as well for being our editor. And if you are watching us on YouTube and you don't feel like doing that, but still listening to the episodes, follow the RSS feed link in the descriptions down below where you can get all of our episodes on all major podcast streaming platforms.
Voice only.
Voice only. And if you would like to support the Cherry Picker podcast, you can subscribe to my Patreon. That's Zack Cherry, and you will get to see these episodes early. If you are subscribed at the Freddy Krueger tier, you will also be able to watch our Cherry Picker After Darks. Those are the episodes that we already talked about here. The Jawbreaker one. We did the Scream Survivors, and also this month it should already be out. But we have season 5 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where I know, right? Nice gay gasp. But
I'm neving.
Analyze,
yes,
dissect, and rank every episode from the season, and we already did that for the first 4 seasons as well. So those are all episodes in the back catalog that you can check out if you become a Patreon supporter. And I do want to thank 2 new supporters. So thank you to Tyker, Vic, and El Chupacabra. So welcome aboard.
Tyker and Chupa, thank you. Yeah.
And social medias. Where can they find you separately of all this? If you only like Eddie but don't really care much for me.
Well, you can't find me anywhere. I'm a Luddite. I don't believe in any of this digital mumbo-jumbo. No, just look for Edward is Truth on Letterboxd or YouTube or Instagram. That's where I tend to graze. Don't look for me elsewhere. I'm not there. What about you, Zack Cherry? Where are you?
I am on Letterboxd, Zack Cherry, ZackCherry. I'm on YouTube. It's my main channel. Same spelling. I'm on Instagram @RetroBitchFace and Twitter, ZackCherry8. Speaking of Letterboxd, I actually did give this a 3 stars out of 5, just for inquiring minds. I don't know if you
I don't
review.
I don't
later.
tend to review the movies that we do here because I worry that it might, discourage people from finding out what I think.
Nobody
like if
cares.
if you see my review on Letterboxd, then I'm showing my hand, and I want you to, get if you're gonna see me talk about a movie and how I feel about it, I'd like you to find out here first, maybe,
Okay. Fair, yeah. Anyway, so you can follow us there, and next week, what do we got going on?
Oh, okay. I'm really glad you asked me because it's that one movie that has that person in it, and they want something, but there's an obstacle, so they're forced to conflict against that. I have no idea.
Could be any plot.
I know. That's why
Why did you not
broad
just
in general?
Okay, yeah. Hey everybody, I want this podcast to be over because I'm so tired, but I'm gonna play these mind games with Zack to just make this
There's
take even
always
longer. Yeah.
There's always time for that. Yeah. What are we doing
next week?
Zach, what are we doing next week?
Next week we're doing Wrong Turn.
Oh.
Talking about not showing your hand. That was very
You don't know why I said that.
Oh, is it just one of your wows? Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
So Wrong
Now
Turn
my
is
new
up
wow
next.
is a wow.
Thank you everyone for watching, for listening, and we will be right